Hi Stefan, it's Matt Widgery. Thank you very much, first of all, for the response you gave me in your blog, your podcast. Very relieved, first of all, let me say, that you are not advocating an armed uprising, an armed revolution. I had horrible visions of you being this sort of Emma Goldman style character, having seen, you know, what happened when the Bolsheviks took over after the revolution and killed millions and millions and millions of people, and she sort of said afterwards, obviously, you know, that she had acted a little hastily, and I just wanted to make absolutely sure that, you know, this wasn't going to go down that route, because that's what tends to happen in revolutions that are born before their time, and that are instigated by violent means. If you have to do something by violent means, if you have to push something in violently, it means that you know, we aren't ready for it. So I'm glad about that. This is the second time I've recorded this, actually. You wouldn't know from the stuttering and spilling over my words, but this is the second time that I've recorded this. The first time I missed out, I think, something which is pretty vital. But I'll get to that right at the end, and I just want to chop through the other two things quickly. It'll go up in a sort of ascending order of mega importance to the human race. So the first one, which is neither here nor there really, but is a notable footnote, I think, and that is your theories on the relationship between family and environmentalism. What I mean by that is obviously what you were saying in the podcast, that in the majority of cases, I think was how you phrased it, or I'm certainly paraphrasing to an extent, but in the majority of cases, in a lot of cases, people that get into environmentalism are projecting issues in the family, issues at home, which they are unable to come to terms with. And if you have, to sort of make the metaphor neat, a polluting family atmosphere, which is I think also how you termed it, or something similar, a polluting family atmosphere, rather than turn around to your loved ones and getting it sorted, it's much easier to turn to strangers and to project all these things onto the outside world, and deal with the pollution in the atmosphere as opposed to those around the dinner table. Okay, well, yeah, that might be the case in some people's lives. But I think if you're going to look at psychology and environmentalism, you can do better in terms of it fitting a universal theory to it. The way that you define these things is very dependent on how you view human nature overall, of course, whether or not you see it as innately selfish, or innately charitable, altruistic, sociable, that sort of thing. I err on the side of altruism in humans, naturally. I think that if you get selfish humans, and selfish human behaviour, to be more accurate, it is normally traceable and causally linked to some of the things which we've already established are a pretty bad thing. They tend to be brought on by state intervention, by power corrupting, and absolute power corrupting absolutely, by greed, by fear, and those sort of motivations. Noam Chomsky put it very well when he said that the state consciously inhibits human emotions. That they have consciously indoctrinated, subjugated, subordinated us by making us apathetic, and that is the most heinous psychological crime, I think, of modern times that the state has given us. So if you're looking at environmentalism, these are the few people that haven't been subjugated by the will of the state. They are still a bit more altruistic, and I think that's generally how people get into these things. You know, you, Stefan Molyneux, I'm sure if you saw an old lady crossing the street, would go over and you know, with big heavy shopping bags, I'm sure you would go over and help her, and you perhaps even see her to her door and make sure she was okay. I would, my friends would, my family would, I'm sure most of the people you know would as well. It's a very small percentage of people that would actually think, you know, whatever to her, you know, she can go and do her own thing because I'm, you know, text messaging someone, or I want a cigarette, or whatever, I want to get home in time for The Simpsons. It doesn't happen unless you're completely unless there's something wrong up there, which again tends to be selfish behaviours derived through apathy, which is state control. I would also say that having, obviously the most important thing, linking this back to psychology, is that by the time you've thought about these things and for whatever reason you get into it, you are then part of a movement, part of a group, you're part of a tribe, and we all know that human beings are tribal, and we derive certain perceived benefits from being part of a group, which people take some value from. So joining up and being a part of something are often good things. So you then join an environmental movement for the same reason that you buy season tickets to see Manchester United, or that you become a signed up member of the Democrat Party, or that you become a member of the Royal Society for the Protection of Birds, or whatever. It's all the same stuff. It's group mentality, it's a herd mentality type thing. So that's it is a major point. I mean, I don't think in the grand scheme of things, whether or not you believe it's down to family corruption or I believe it's down to altruism and tribal psychology, that makes a hill of beans to the grand picture. These are sort of smaller issues underneath it all. A bigger point for me. Let's just move on to number 2 now, which is your basing the theories for a new society on anarcho-capitalism. I want to go on the record now and say that the libertarianism side of things and the anarchism side of things I am with you 100% on. Property rights, non-aggression policy, non-statist society, yes. Where do I sign? Oh God, sign now. But basing it on capitalism has some fundamental problems. Capitalism is teaching my grandmother to suck eggs, I know, but just sort of run through it. Capitalism is based on owners who have capital, who have equity share in a business, and then workers underneath them who are rented, who are hired. Their labour is bought from them, but they have no inherent share in the business. So if I am a factory owner and I own the factory, and I bought, and so therefore I own the raw materials to make lampshades, for example, and I hire a bunch of workers, at £5 an hour to make lampshades for me. Well, I can get as rich as I damn well like, because provided I can keep lowering my costs, expanding my market, expanding productivity to meet the market needs, and keep supplying that market, I will then become richer and richer. The workers